Welcome to Reddit Reader. Workers who got their bosses fired. How? I used to work at a title company and witnessed our department manager forge mortgage documents on a fairly regular basis. So when she went to upper management to throw the entire department under the bus for being behind on recording documents, I marched straight to HR to resign and let them know what she was doing. She was fired, and they called me and offered my job back before the week was out. Worked register at a tour company. I also had a manager who hated me for some reason. She was probably the person I've ever met. Constantly yelled at us for no reason. Got on to me about answering questions a new hire had when I was asked, not her. Wrote down I was 30 minutes late for a shift when I was 2 minutes late, etc., etc. We had a sneaking suspicion that she was taking money from our tills, as she was always the one who counted down the till when someone got fired for stealing cash. I made it a habit to count down every bill when I gave it back to a customer, because we would get docked if we were even $1 off. So if a customer had $23 in change, I'd count 20. 1, 2, 3 in front of them, so I knew I had given back the right amount. We also had cameras pouring at the registers. Well, one day my GM pulls me aside and says $20 was missing from my till, and they were going to fire me. I straight up told my boss she could look at the cameras because I counted out all my bills for customers. Lo and behold, was the one who counted down my till and got caught on tape, pocketing the money. She was gone by my next shift. You, Jennifer. I won. Why wouldn't they be checking cameras regardless if they're going to fire someone for stealing? What idiots. I didn't say it was a well-run company. I had a job that required my supervisor to be doing evaluations of my cases and charts. She just hadn't in months. She and my director ordered me and my coworkers to do our own chart audits, fill out the forms, and they would sign off. I was so tired of not having adequate supervision, staff meetings weekly where she yelled at us, and invariably someone cried due to the stress and lack of support, and not having been paid enough to do everything I was doing and their job, I refused. I was told to do it or I would be fired. Nope, so I got fired. On the way out to my car, I called my former director, who had moved to another agency. She set up an interview for the next day, and I had a new job within 24 hours. She asked me what had happened at that interview. I spilled all the tea. Her sister-in-law was on the board of the previous agency, so she called her, and I told her everything too. Director was fired, and supervisor was reprimanded and put on close monitoring. She had killed any chance of promotion and left shortly afterwards, I'd heard. I was just happy to have jumped ship from that toxic mess. I should have left months earlier. Not my story, but my mother's. I watched on the sidelines as a teenager. My mother's job was basically a professional fundraiser. I really don't know what else to call it. People came to her for help to raise money for nonprofits or other foundations that needed it. This was a long time ago, before social workers were more of a mandatory thing at high schools. My high school was very poor and did not have one. So my mother took it upon herself to set up a fundraiser to pay the salary of a social worker so my high school could have one. After raising all the money, she went to talk to the principal, who flat out refused to take any of it and said the position just wasn't necessary. My mother was pretty upset and just decided she would donate the money to supplies or something like that. I honestly have no idea what she did with it, but it did go to some sort of charity. After a few months at a Christmas party, the superintendent of all the public schools in the area was at the same party, and he struck up a conversation with my mother. After some small talk, my mother said that it was such a shame the principal didn't take the money for the social worker's position. The superintendent was dumbstruck and then told her that he had ordered the principal to find funding for that position, and when superintendent asked him about it, he replied with, "No one is interested in that, and we just couldn't get the money for it." Needless to say, he lost his position, and whenever we came back from the holiday break, the school was hiring for his position. The cynic in me wonders if the principal worried that a social worker would call him out on whatever he was doing. I had a boss who was skimming off employee hours at Walmart. I took screenshots of my employees' hours on Thursday before the shift started, and then screenshots of their hours on Friday that showed all of them had a couple hours skimmed off their work week. I was a low-level manager. He was an upper-tier manager. He got fired. I believe his motivation was that he wanted to get promoted and wanted to show he could get done more in less man-hours. Probably would have impacted his bonus, too. Management was giving an injured worker, not wanting to pay him, accusing him of gold bricking. Worker said, "Tell you what, do the right thing here or you will be sorry." Management said, "Take your best shot." Worker called the EPA and APCD, told them where to find the logs that showed discrepancies in toxic material storage and usage. Sheriff's deputies showed up and raided the offices. Field supervisors from 10 years ago that had retired got subpoenaed. It was epic. Cost the company massively in fines and remediation. All because you wanted to with one poor. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, dislike if you disliked it, and subscribe so you don't miss our next upload.